Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to Taste of Science, a series designed to feed your curiosity. Whether you're here for the first time with us or you're returning, we are so happy to have you tonight. My name is Sofia Garcia, and I'm the chapter lead for Taste of Science San Antonio, right here in Texas. Now, before we begin, I want to introduce the team that is behind tonight's event. First, let's meet Arslan, who's helping us make sure everything is running smoothly. Arslan, can you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Sophia. Hi, everyone. I'm Arslan, and I'll be making sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes tonight. I'm really excited about tonight's event and the fantastic discussion we're about to have. We have an amazing guest speaker who will be diving into an important topic that is highly influential. So let's get right into it and dive right in.
Perfect. Thank you, Arslan. Now, I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker for tonight, Juan Areche. Juan is going to talk about a topic that's not only important right now, but can seriously impact our future. Now, let's give him a big welcome. Hi, Juan. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing well today. Hello.
Hi, that's great to hear. Now, do you mind providing us with a little overview of your educational or professional background?
Yes, absolutely. So I studied with undergrad and studied for my undergraduate and graduate degrees at Our Lady of the Lake University here in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm pretty much from here. And from there, I learned a lot about self-care, mindfulness, a lot of directions to take in the therapy rooms and also in personal life. I also went through the stages of transitioning from your own 18-year-old high school years all the way through college. So this is definitely a topic close to me and in regards to learning how that works and how to navigate the ebb and flow. And in regards to my professional accounts, I've worked within the criminal justice system, private practice for two different private practice clinics, as well as my own currently here in San Antonio.
Wow, that's awesome, Juan. Thank you for that very brief summary. Now, before we dive into the main presentation, can you give us a bit of an overview of the topic that you're going to discuss tonight and why it's so important for us?
Yes. So tonight it'll mostly center on college age students, but I think it can really adapt to all sorts of ages regardless, especially with the techniques that will be provided. But we'll be discussing tonight how it works with transitioning from our home to living more independently, which I don't think a lot of people really talk about when it comes to preparing for college, are the challenges that can be undertaken without even knowing about them until they're presented to us. So I'll be talking about how to find balance, self-care, stress management techniques for that, as well as how to seek help if you need professional help while you're away in college, even after as well.
That's really great. Thank you for that, Juan. Now, I have another question just out of curiosity. So, what initially sparked your interest in this issue? Do you remember maybe experiencing something or a specific moment that made you feel that this was something that you wanted to pursue?
Yes, absolutely. So when I read your first email, I
Mhm.
remember it mentioned how to help with college age students with stress, and I thought to myself, initially when I started applying for college around 16 or 17 years old, we were all talking about FAFSA preparation, how to manage, or not even to manage, but how to get prepared and what it's going to be like. But nobody talked about stress management or any of the obstacles or challenges that college age students face. So during that time, I thought to myself, well, what about if I start to work? Nobody had an answer for me at the time. Like, you're not supposed to work, you just focus on your studies. And it's like, well, not everyone does that. That's not the reality. And also, the idea of working through stress management techniques and feeling overwhelmed, it was something I personally would go through at times. So now that I have the tools in order to help assist other people, I want to share my gifts with other people through this webinar today.
So, as you explain this, like, what do you think is the most common misconception people have about this problem of depression with the student work? Like, what is something that can get really wrong that could lead to something even bigger, like a bigger issue down the line?
Absolutely. So I'd say burnout is one of the major signs of a lack of stress management. And then, if anybody has any kind of experience or any kind of internalized depression that they've experienced since childhood, adolescence, and they take that into college, or anything else that they've experienced of the expectations of their parents, of other people, challenges, and feeling like it's a competition to be in college, then that could lead to burnout with when there is a lack of that kind of cohesiveness with balance of self and with school. So in the long term, that can lead to anxiety, depression, thoughts of self-harm, and also just feeling overall burnt out to the point of what they call bed rotting. So feeling overwhelmed to the point of not wanting to do anything and experiencing analysis paralysis and decision fatigue, which are other topics that I'll go into.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Juan. I mean, I think even for viewers watching, it could be a really great discussion to listen to what you have to say and really give us some of your insights on what you've learned thus far in your career. So thank you for that and for providing some much needed background on the issue. Now, without further ado, Juan will begin presenting over the restoration of balance in our personal and professional lives.
So hello. So I'll be starting off with the presentation here. So unfortunately, we don't have any fancy like slide transitions, so we'll just be clicking through the slides, but that's okay. So mainly, I'll be focusing a lot on restoring balance. So over here on the left, it has a lot of the things that we might be thinking about throughout our lives, like social connectivity, travel, and actions that we have to take, study time, finances, all of these things that we have to deal with in life. So a lot of times there's a struggle with creating balance. And I chose this image because I feel like the colorful side on the right is what it would be like if we established harmony with all of these parts within our lives. So what I want to discuss with all of you tonight will definitely start with college life. There are many opportunities, but there are also challenges along the way. What is stress? What are the definitions of it? And what exactly is mental health? What is balance? And we'll talk about stress management, mindfulness, self-care, and balance techniques, and also the importance of a support system throughout this time frame. Most importantly, I'll discuss when it is important to seek professional help, and towards the end, we'll do a mindfulness exercise. So, throughout the course of our lives up until 18, most of us are with a guardian or guardians that tend to us. So, upon leaving for college, some do have opportunities that include networking or being away from home, travel, of course. So other things can be actually studying subjects that someone is actually interested in. That's a huge thing that happens within college, within the college area. You'll be able to collaborate with your peers and other professionals, network, explore your own personal career, and also engage in extracurricular activities. That could be arts, music, choir, and all sorts of other things. There are some challenges along the way that can include navigating social relationships, intimate relationships, adapting to independence. That's a huge thing that can be a struggle. There's some homesickness that could come along with that. There are the financial pressures, balancing the academic workload and personal life. This also applies for professionals, balancing work and personal life. And then there's the potential employment while attending classes, and some people might even have children. So it's also a balance of that as well. So my question would be, how do you find balance while handling academic workload, potential work stress, maintaining a social life, texting everyone back, drinking enough water, fighting the urge to look at or send TikTok memes and reels, potentially zoning out, getting 8 hours of sleep, and not understanding a thing someone just said, while on top of that, also exercising and above all, be happy. Well, the truth is, it's a lot, and it's okay to say that it's a lot because it is. So we'll definitely be getting into this as we go on. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is understanding stress. So stress, a lot of times what this has to do with is having what is called a natural response to external or internal tension. This can either be physically done or it could be emotionally. Our stressors, they can come up in different ways, different forms. Everyone experiences stress to some degree. And if you don't, I would love to know your secrets. If you ever want to share that with me, that'd be great. But here's a great representation of it over here with Homer. He's on the tablet. Sometimes we're zoning out, but internally, it's like a huge fire. We're falling apart. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, let's zone out for a little bit. But this is also not a good thing if internally you're dying, externally you're thriving, you're doing okay. But yes, so with that, we'll be going on and talking about the types of stress. So eustress, this is actually beneficial stress. It's usually moderate and it can motivate us and assist us. So say, for instance, you're preparing for a presentation and you have things ready for it. Maybe you feel nervous. Like maybe, I felt a little nervous coming in here doing a presentation, but I'm like, here we are. Okay, this is something I enjoy talking about. So that kind of eustress is actually beneficial. That's healthy anxiety. But there is also distress, which is negative stress. So this can be causing unpleasant feelings, sometimes sweating, heart palpitations, tightness of the chest, shortness of breath, muscle tension. These can exacerbate mental health symptoms and also lead to unpleasant experiences in response to stress. Long-term effects of distress can lead to burnout as well, and the worsening of any symptoms if somebody experiences any kind of diagnosis. So common stressors that happen with stress can be academic pressure, financial concerns, work stress, social relationships. There might be people you don't get along with, or maybe even loneliness might go along with this as well. So that could be a factor when it comes to stress. And then we have transitioning to independence and also mental health diagnoses. Like I said earlier, stress can exacerbate symptoms when it comes to a mental health diagnosis. So another thing I want to point out, I'm not sure if you can see it here in the bottom left where my window is, but so over here are signs of overwhelm from stress or burnout. So physical signs of this can be headaches, muscle pain and tension, changes in appetite. So you might be eating more or less than usual, frequent illnesses, and feeling really tired all the time, or more often than not. So some emotional signs can be anxiety, depression, irritability, or a cynical or negative outlook, loneliness, and decision fatigue. And we'll talk about decision fatigue for sure too. And the last part on here is behavioral, which can be drug and alcohol abuse, as well as procrastination. So it can be hard to continue on with getting assignments done or doing anything at all. It can cause analysis paralysis, which is like overthinking to the point where everything just feels overwhelming, even the smallest tasks. So let's move on. So what exactly is mental health? So mental health is related to not only just the brain and the mind, it's actually very much connected. So there are biological, psychological, and social well-being aspects associated with mental health. It's all connected. So the biological side is the body's response to the signals from the brain. Sometimes, like I said, our brain will send signals to our body. If we're experiencing a worry or anxiety or a fear, our brain is supposed to send a signal to say, hey, we're a little bit worried upstairs. We're a little worried up here. So it can cause heart palpitations, but this is also important for us to survive. But in order for mental health to be in a healthy state, it's to notice that, hey, it's okay that this is happening. We'll talk about that a little bit later, though. That awareness is key. So psychological aspects can include what we feel, think, and sometimes believe about ourselves and the world around us. And then our social aspect of mental health, it's our connection to others. We're biologically created to connect and depend on one another for survival. So this is very important to pay attention to, especially because there is an issue with loneliness throughout many parts of the world today. So we'll be discussing ways in which we can maintain social well-being as well, on top of biological and psychological well-being. So common mental health challenges that people can come across, and these are not all of them, of course, but some can be anxiety, depression, ADHD, fatigue, burnout, and even social anxiety. So being up on stage or even having to give presentations or do any sorts of organization, a lot of these things can become even more difficult if someone experiences these mental health challenges. So another thing I want to tell you about mental health is that it's definitely okay to seek help. I know there is stigma associated with it still, but think of it as feeding yourself. And we have all had help along the way since birth on being here today, where we are, from one person or another, even if it wasn't our own mother or father. So mental health challenges, what I want to tell you, the good news is they are common and they are treatable, and definitely that you are not alone. So what's balance? This is my next topic that I'll be talking about next too. So it's about prioritization. So scheduling priorities and breaking up the big projects into smaller steps. It's very important. Not doing so can lead to procrastination and cramming. So it's like you're setting a fire on things to get done, but at the same time, it's like last minute, everything feels very rushed. It can be very overwhelming. And cramming can lead to a lot of things just kind of going in your mind and phasing out very quickly. While I know I did that at times, it wasn't always helpful. So I would recommend to avoid that and make sure to prioritize and schedule things out into smaller chunks. Another part of balance has to do with habits and self-care. Doing small things that fill your cup, because they definitely matter. These include like even bathing, grooming yourself, feeding yourself, going for walks, getting sunlight. We'll talk about all of these things as well. So setting boundaries, huge thing. And I wish I had known this back when I started transitioning into college, was saying no and avoiding overcommitment or overscheduling myself. A lot of times I would find myself saying yes to a lot of things and also overscheduling all of my tasks with no breaks in sight. So we'll talk about. Lastly, we have homeostasis. So this is when the body maintains even when external conditions change. Sorry, I'm not sure if I cut out there. So homeostasis has to do with feeling and experiencing peace internally, even if there is chaos. And chaos can include, in a way, figuratively, everything that is outside of our control, everything in the external. So here's something that you don't want to do. So telling ourselves, oh, I can fit it into my schedule. But say this blue block at the top is your break time. This is 30 minutes of break time to chill, zone out, go for a walk, stretch, and you're saying, or can I fit it? So you take off the break. What I would recommend is keep the break there. It's okay to leave that other part, that other commitment for another time, if you are able to, of course. But making sure to prioritize yourself as in taking breaks, really important. So again, try not to take any time away from you. So some stress management techniques that I'd like to go over today, these include getting some physical activity. So getting at least 30 minutes of exercise per day. This can be of any kind. This does not mean you have to go to a gym. It doesn't mean you have to interact with others, but it could be important and helpful for you to get some sunlight, feel the endorphins. Even going outside on a cloudy day is brighter than it would be by staying inside, because the UV rays still come through even with the clouds. The sun is still there. So some examples, other examples would be yoga, having a light jog, lifting some weights, swimming, gardening, walking, hiking, getting in touch with nature. It's very important. And some other techniques we have here are time management strategies. So these are some pretty interesting ones that I've used myself and also have introduced to clients that have been helpful, especially if they become overwhelmed by a lot of tasks all at once. So we have here what is called the Pomodoro technique. So the first step is eliminating your distractions. So this can include usually the phone, and you don't want to be on Instagram or checking out TikTok reels and just wanting to send those, because, zoning out is something that's bound to happen, especially if the brain is overwhelmed and wants stimulation by dopamine. It's more fun sometimes too. So the Pomodoro technique helps, especially with ADHD, by literally setting a timer of 15 to 30 minutes and just allowing yourself to focus on the task at hand. It's one task though, not multiple ones, just one, allowing yourself time to do that, so that after you finish that 15, 30 minutes, whatever the time is, you take that break. So you develop a reward system for that. So maybe that reward system includes going for that walk, stepping outside, stretching, calling one of your friends and chatting for a little bit, whatever you would like. But then you do go back to another session of your focused interval. So that is the Pomodoro technique. So scheduling breaks and fun. This is very important when it comes to creating any type of method for overcoming exorbitant amounts of stress. So a lot of people, when, at least in college for me, I would ask people, hey, what do you like to do for fun? And they'd be like, I don't know. So a lot of times what I would recommend is looking back at childhood, maybe even thinking about, what did I do for fun before any of the stress came in? What did I do in high school or middle school? What were some things that I liked to do that I enjoyed? So literally what I would say is put these in your calendar. These can be through your phone's calendar. This can be a literal planner with pen and paper. And there are also apps, several apps that can be used for scheduling. So definitely put in your timed breaks and actually commit to them, because you deserve it. Here's a really good one as well, called Spin the Wheel app. This helps to categorize choices and combat decision fatigue. So literally you can make them for tasks, for break ideas. So you're like, I don't know what I want to do for my break. Tap. So this can be downloaded in the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store. So you can do those there, and also for social ideas and food options. So sometimes it comes to the point where we've done so much work and it's like, I don't even know what I want to eat. Well, if you know a set of like 5, you can use that, spin the wheel, and that'll be there for you. So another part is time blocks. This again is also used for creating options and creating a succinct kind of schedule, especially if you're provided a syllabus and you can decide, hey, when and what time and where would I like to take care of these responsibilities, these tasks. So using a planner app or a smartphone calendar can be used for that, for assignments, for breaks, for work, and all of those sorts of things. Committing to rest and relaxation, literally schedule days to do nothing and be a responsible hermit is what I like to call that. It's literally okay to do nothing for a day, because a lot of times we are very busy. So allowing ourselves time to rest and relax, commit to yourself. It's very important. Lastly, you don't want to overcommit yourself to everything all at once. And behind here, my window is sleep hygiene. So what we want to do is what I would attempt is 7 to 8 hours of sleep per day, avoiding screen time at least 1 hour before bed, meditation and breathing, relaxation tea can help. And also there are natural supplements such as magnesium and ashwagandha, but definitely consult your physician about those. So yeah, we'll be moving on to our next section, which will be mindfulness. This brings us to that, especially, and this would be helpful for relaxation. So mindfulness, it's the psychological process of purposefully bringing one's attention to experiences occurring in the present moment without any judgment. So what we do here is we recognize our present thoughts and emotions. We allow them to exist, but we don't judge them. But also you allow yourself time to really just give it some care and compassion and just gaze at it. These are our thoughts and feelings. So it's also recognizing that our thoughts and feelings are not facts. So allowing them to be present can be helpful. This is where journaling can also come into play afterwards. So some parts of that through mindfulness can be part of letting go, processing, or resetting your focus to tell yourself, I will come back to this later. So committing to that, especially if you identify a feeling. The next part, it will be directing the mind. So this has to do with triangle breathing. So there are several methods for meditation. These are definitely not all of them. But triangle breathing has to do with literally inhaling through the nose, expanding the diaphragm, the belly, hold the breath for 4 seconds, and exhale through the mouth for 4 seconds. And you just repeat that. You can either focus on the counting, on the breath, the diaphragm, you name it. As long as you are in that state and have your eyes closed, trying that and repeating it can help to relax the mind and the body and synchronize it together. There's another one here called the body scan. So what we do here is you literally scan from the top to bottom of your body. So all the way from the top of your head, all the way to your toes. And as you go through each section, you are releasing tension in different parts. It can be from the muscles, the shoulders, all sorts of areas there. Mindful walking and listening. So literally what I'd recommend for this is definitely walking outside and listening to the nature all around you, including your footsteps on the ground. If you're inside, that's okay too. Just be aware of like when you extend your leg and also when your feet touch the floor, when your feet flex, all of those things. Being aware of your own movement can help with that. We have here a grounding technique called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. This includes 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Some things I added here too are the meditation apps. These are really good ones. The tapping solution especially is good when it comes to having difficulty with sitting still or having ADHD. I myself have trouble with sitting and breathing for too long, as my mind will just naturally just start wanting to do and focus on other things. So the tapping solution has to do with tapping different parts of the face, collarbone, and under the arm and top of the head. And there's a free version of this app that I highly recommend, because as you tap, you're sending messages to the central nervous system that you are safe, everything is okay, and you are calm, and thus it will lower cortisol, the stress hormone, in your body and in the brain, so that it stops sending that even when there is anxiety present. So it's guided meditations along with tapping. So there's the Calm app, Headspace, and Breathe. Back to the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. This again is a grounding technique. I would recommend this for sure when you feel like overwhelmed. You have a lot of things going on, a lot of deadlines, a lot of things to think about all at once, and you kind of just want to recenter yourself for a moment. That's really good to do. So the next one would be our physical and mental check-ins. They can help us to know when we need to have a mindful moment. So this is literally about sitting still and listening to your body, being aware of its mental and physical needs. So some questions to ask yourself about this would be, what does it feel like when I know it's time to give myself a break? Some examples of this would be you're reading a chapter, or you're reading anything, or you're going over emails, and you're not absorbing any of the information. It's like not there. It's not going through the filters in your mind. You're having to reread everything, or you're zoning out a lot. That's a time that I would say it's time to have a moment. Take care of yourself. Try to use one of these mindfulness techniques in those moments, and you can allow yourself to reset in many ways. Also, just literally saying, I need to take a break, and promise yourself to return. So take some time. Go to stretch. Go to do something for you. Where in my body do I feel emotions manifest? So a lot of times, especially if we're sitting for long periods of time, our stress is usually associated or situated in our shoulders, our neck, and even tension headaches can develop. Even eye strain can develop. So sometimes when we have too many feelings going on at once, or feeling overwhelmed, it's important to recognize where in your body you experience this. It could be tension in different parts of your body as well. So it's good to find ways that can help you to release through mindfulness. And then when do I notice the emotions the most? So this could be in different times. Sometimes people most experience stress or emotions, heavy emotions, early in the morning, or in the middle of the day, or in the evening when they're trying to sleep and their mind is racing. So this again is why mindfulness is very important. So here's our next one about self-care. Self-care practices. These are things that I always talk about, especially in sessions with clients. So literally slowing down, taking time to be present with yourself and breathe. Allowing yourself to have gentle mornings or evenings, even daytime, have some coffee, hang out with your pets. If you want to talk to someone, definitely do that as well. Self-compassion techniques. This is how we nurture ourselves. Literally talking to how you would talk to a friend in need or anyone that's in need, and being able to be kind and compassionate towards yourself. Saying nice things literally can help with that as well. Avoiding overcommitment, knowing that you don't have to do all of the things right now. Do not create this kind of expectation of yourself either, because if you start to do this while you're in college, you're developing more habits in the future when it comes to your own work outside of college, where you will think that you have to get it all done and figure it all out and be perfect at everything that you're doing, when that is very unrealistic. So knowing that you don't have to commit to knowing and doing everything all at once. Know that everything takes time and patience. We didn't get here to where we are today without the art of practice in different areas of our lives. So again, we talked about homeostasis earlier. This is balance. We're constantly calibrating and recalibrating ourselves. Our mind and body is always doing this. Balance feels like a fleeting moment as well. Sometimes it'll be there for about 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, maybe a day. But be aware when it shows up. Be aware that, hey, this is what calmness feels like. Let me embrace this. This is great. So when anxiety strikes, like especially if it's any kind of panic, holding an ice cube in the palm of your hand while using the triangle breathing method I discussed earlier could be of use during that time. Radical acceptance, knowing and accepting I cannot do it all. Learning to acknowledge your emotions, accept them, accept what is not in your control, and being able to move forward. There are a lot of articles online that can really help out with that as well. So radical acceptance is basically accepting what is and knowing that what you feel is okay. It's okay to feel what you are feeling. Acknowledge that. Thanking yourself every day is very important. You're showing up for yourself every single day that you wake up and you do anything that you do. And so acknowledge that for yourself. I don't think a lot of people are taught that. Nutritional wise, these are just a couple of things here. So be aware of your daily water intake, sun, vitamin D intake, and physical movement. Eat balanced meals. Very important stuff. Definitely for hobbies as well. Behind my screen, we have hobbies. So definitely engaging in activities that you enjoy. Try scheduling a day of this as well. So I like to play piano. I like to make music. I like to go hiking. I like to watch movies. So there are several things that you can just see like, hey, what do I want to do for myself this week? I have a day that I can spare to do nothing, and schedule that. Allow yourself that time. You deserve it. You are allowed, just for existing, to take breaks and engage in hobbies and things you enjoy. Another thing is movement, dancing, singing, listening to music, playing an instrument, different options. So next is the importance of a support system. So in our lives, we connect with various people all throughout our lives. And it's very important, especially if you're away from home, to have a support system, knowing that you are worthy of healthy relationships in your life. So first thing I would say is definitely reaching out to your friends, family, peers, and some that do not have biological family that they can reach out to. They have chosen family. So that is also important here. You matter, and so do the people you surround yourself with. So that is definitely what I call quality over quantity. You want to focus on the meaningful connections in your life, not on the people that do not provide that kind of connection that you are seeking, ones that want to hear from you and want to support you. So definitely defining what support looks like for you and focus on the people that provide that for you is very important here. And support looks different for everyone. This can be the love languages that can also be associated with social supports, even intimacy as well. So sending voicemail memos, I put that on here. So it does help to hear someone's voice. Texting is nice as well, but also hearing from people, hearing people's voices can be very helpful in this aspect because it provides that soothing effect as well. So calling your supports, FaceTime, video call, whatever you'd like. Joining organizations that connect you to others. So this can include anime, music, language, film, tech, business, exercise groups, and then there are peer support groups as well. So some campuses do offer support groups for different students, and maybe they have topics that you'd be interested in that you'd like to check out. There's also professional supports. There are on-site campus counselors at most colleges. If it's fully online, they usually offer them even virtually. If not, I'm sure your student support services can assist you with getting in contact with one. There are also mental health counselors, psychiatrists, and medical doctors. You can also reach out to a trusted professor. If you need extra time on assignments, it's okay for you to ask for that as well. Sometimes when we're overcome and overwhelmed with so much at once, sometimes we need some extra time, and life actually happens too. So, like I said, things outside of our control, and it's okay to ask for help. And sometimes talking to them about your struggles can help if they are a trusted professor, of course. And lastly, academic advisors, and if you have a mentor as well. So next we have here when to seek professional support and help. So knowing the signs, these are things that I definitely recommend even proactively. If you notice going into college that you're already feeling overwhelmed, it's okay if you were to say, hey, maybe I do want to go into therapy just to make sure that I'm doing okay. Not waiting until the last minute and all of this feels like a bomb going off, and it's overwhelming to the point of like, I need to go to therapy. I'm so overwhelmed. But there are signs: persistent anxiety, depressed mood, there's the fatigue, irritability, sleep issues, isolation, alcohol and drug use, and then appetite changes. There are many others, of course. So difficulty functioning in daily life. If you notice that you're struggling with just keeping up with yourself, just brushing your teeth or bathing yourself, feeding yourself. If there are any thoughts of self-harm or any suicidal thoughts as well. So how to seek help? So contacting your campus counseling center. Most colleges provide mental health counseling services at no charge. So always check the website or call student services. You can find a mental health counselor at one of these links: Psychology Today, Therapy Den, Open Path Collective. This is usually for people without insurance, so they offer it at a sliding scale, affordable rate. It's pretty good. So you can always search for this based on your insurance, your needs, and your cost. If you need to call someone like one of your parents, if you're on their insurance plan, you can always ask them about insurance, like, hey, what would it be like if I got counseling? Or if you have your own card and you're like, hey, I want to make sure that this is confidential. Well, no, as an adult at 18 years of age, everything you say in therapy is also confidential, so your parents would not have access to that information unless there's a need for your counselor to reach out and say, hey, your child or this person has said that they are wanting to do any kind of harm. But again, that is also confidential, and only if you've listed this person as a contact, a point of contact. So lastly, we have hotlines and online resources. So we have the crisis text line. You can text home to 741-741. And then we have the national and crisis hotlines as well. So those numbers are available to you there. So lastly, I'd like to go over a mindfulness exercise with each of you. I think we still have some time for this. Let me just make sure. So in regards to what we talked about earlier with triangle breathing, we can do this together with the body scan. So what I want each of you to do is go ahead and close your eyes. And if you're able to sit up straight, you don't have to sit cross-legged or anything like that. But this can start with inhaling through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold the breath for 4 seconds. And exhale for 4 seconds. While you're doing this, inhale for 4 seconds and expand the belly as you inhale. Hold the breath 4 seconds and rest the belly back into resting place as you exhale. You can also, if you'd like, hold your hand to your chest and diaphragm. So go ahead and continue with that. And Something you can do along the way is what is called the body scan. So if you want to, if you're open to this as well, start from the top of your head and notice if there's any tension there. And if you notice maybe any tension in your face or your jaw or your ears, mouth, your eyes, maybe your forehead. And as you continue down to your neck, the front and back, your shoulders. If you noticed any tension in these sections of the body, go ahead and try to relax them as you breathe. Think of it as breathing oxygen into those different areas. So then we have the upper back, the shoulders, the chest, the belly, the lower back. These are also a lot of the areas where a lot of people hold tension. So as you breathe, allow yourself time to release that tension in those areas. Just be aware. If there's tension there, it's okay. Try to let it go. Now we'll go to the limbs. So the thighs, the glutes, the arms, the forearms, the hands, the knees, your feet, and toes. And you can take all the time that you need while you go through this process and making sure that you allow time to relax those different sections of your body. Remember, the goal here is not to eliminate the stress, it's to reduce it. So as you go through this mindfulness exercise, do not have the expectation that you have to be alleviated completely of any stress. This is more of a way to reduce and balance the scales more. So one final inhale for 4 seconds through the nose. Hold the breath for 4 seconds. And exhale for 4 seconds. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. Okay, so you're welcome to go back to that at any time. And of course, body scans can be as long as you'd want them to be. They don't have to be a quick 4 or 5 minutes. So if you'd like to do longer, you're welcome to do so. So lastly, I want to close out with saying that you are definitely worthy, more than worthy, to prioritize yourself, to take breaks. Radical acceptance, knowing we can't do it all. Prioritize what you can, when you can. So knowing you don't have to do it all, just prioritize, but also prioritize your breaks, prioritize yourself. You are important, just as important, if not more important than the tasks or any of the things you are doing in your life. You are also important. So don't forget that about yourself. Lastly, we have balance. It's homeostasis. Again, it's fleeting. Constantly calibrating and recalibrating and adjusting as we move through life. Know that things are never going to stay the same. Things are always changing outside of us. We are always changing. And the biggest thing is you want to make sure to strive for good enough, because perfectionism is not realistic. Good enough is literally good enough. And here are some resources here, some articles. Here's a sound therapy music by Marconi Union that I'd highly recommend. If you want to listen to soothing music that's actually research-based, and it's proven to reduce anxiety symptoms and help to sleep. And here's the lifeline for the crisis number as well. And that is all.
Perfect. Thank you, Juan, for going through that demonstration with us. And really, I think your reminder at the very end is very important and influential in the way that we look at this subject. So now we will advance into our Q&A section. So audience, it's time for you to ask your own questions about the presentation that was discussed. And if you have any questions at all, please type them in the comment section and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Okay, if any, we can kickstart some ideas with some of questions that Arslan and I have gathered over the presentation time. So I guess what's kind of associated with seeking help and having a good support system is that others around you, recognize that you're struggling. So I guess for the support system, more focused on them. What are some signs that someone should take to like recognize someone that's stressed or struggling with their responsibilities, with their day-to-day lives? What are some kind of hints that you may need to talk with this person or really support them in that way?
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good question. I would say first and foremost is to see if you notice that they are more distant than usual, especially over the course of days or weeks, withdrawn, isolated, and seeing if they are more or less engaged in conversation. Those are definitely some signs of that. If you notice that someone is not really responding to you, so that would be a really good way to check in with them and ask them like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And asking if they would like to engage with you or spend some time with you. It's okay to ask them or let them know that, "Hey, I know that," and acknowledge, if anything, if you are feeling any way of any kind of sort of way, it's okay for you to open up to me and talk with me. I want to support you as much as possible. So being that calm space to someone would be good. Calm and safe space.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Editor, for that.
So we just got a question from Ren, and they're asking, do you know any resources for any therapy?
Yes, absolutely. And for therapy, I did put in the, which is great because I hope that the PowerPoint can be sent down to participants. But if you're looking for therapy, psychologytoday.com is definitely a great website for those that are insured or just looking for a therapist in general. There is Therapy Den, which is also based on helping out people that are of the LGBTQ population and more progressive side. And there are also websites like Open Path Collective, I believe that's the name, but that's on the slides as well. And this helps people a lot that do not have insurance access mental health care counseling at an affordable rate. And if you are in college and you need mental health counseling as well, you can always check and see if your college offers any mental health counseling resources.
Perfect. Thank you for that reply, Mr. Adeche, and highlighting the resources that are available both online and in person if you at your educational institution. So Eddie and Buddy puts in the comment section, I've been hearing a lot about journaling. I find this difficult as someone with ADHD. What are some methods to journal more effectively with ADHD?
So with ADHD, sometimes when I have a time, because being consistent with journaling can be difficult. For me, I have to have it out because out of sight, out of mind, especially with ADHD, if it's not present, it makes it difficult to actually engage in it. So if you have that pen and paper in a place that's very familiar, just like you have keys in your wallet in a certain space, being able to journal, or even having a journal that has prompts for you so you don't have to necessarily think about what to write about, can be very helpful in this manner. And also being able to journal through asking yourself different questions can be helpful too. And for with ADHD, a lot of times it's scheduling and providing yourself with structure. So scheduling a time and saying, hey, I'm going to journal for 5 minutes, literally putting that in your calendar. Or if you want to include something within your self-care wheel, the self-care wheel can be, then the wheel app can be helpful with identifying, hey, what do I want to do for myself when it comes to reflecting? So reflection options, journaling does not have to be the only one. You can always choose other things that you find helpful for you.
I personally had a question on if you can share some easy ways that I can feel less stressed during a really busy day with a lot of tasks to do.
Yes, absolutely. So acknowledging time throughout the day, like if you when you wake up in the morning, making sure to drink plenty of water. If you enjoy tea or enjoy if coffee doesn't get you too stimulated or too anxious throughout the day, that can be something that can help you as well, something that is calming for you. When you have a lot of tasks to do, sometimes we forget to really look around our surroundings and ground ourselves. So grounding techniques can be very helpful. The 5 4 3 2 1 technique can be good. It could take maybe 2 minutes to do. We have several hours that we are usually awake. So doing that can be helpful. Being able to do some breathing while you are driving, you don't have to have your eyes closed. So literally breathing, inhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds can be helpful with being able to balance those things out. Um, and if you are feeling too overwhelmed, it's okay for you to say, hey, I'm going to put this commitment off for another day because I've taken care of all of these other tasks today. And if you feel like it's become too much, it's okay to be in that space of taking a break, placing the boundary and saying no. So don't overcommit yourself. If you're able to take the break, take it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Adeche. I was remembering how you talked about during your slides about prioritization and how important that is, and the topic of balance and making sure that you don't have too much on your plate where you're too overwhelmed. So I think I had a question just out of curiosity. So what should someone do right away if they are overwhelmed or overcome with stress, kind of as in like maybe an anxiety attack, especially during very stressful seasons like this one, going into the holiday season? What can be like the immediate response that someone should take if they're around someone who is experiencing that?
Yes, absolutely. So a big thing is I always tell people, this is especially with clients that experience panic attacks or a lot of anxiety, and there's no way to kind of think. So the goal is to get back to like a centered space. So I'd recommend tell somebody, hey, let's go get some ice or get some cold air, or let's get some water on your face. Or if you're able to, if you have access to a shower, taking a cold shower will shock the body into equilibrium because it sends a signal and it puts the body into kind of survival shock, but in a way that lowers the mental stimulation and calms the mind. So doing your own kind of cold plunge can be done by taking a cold shower or holding an ice cube in the palm of your hand, breathing and watching it melt, creating a sting. What this does is it sends a message to the central nervous system that, hey, we have pain here, and everything else kind of minimizes into the background. So it allows you to turn down the volume, not all the way, but it does help to reduce any kind of impact of the anxiety or the panic attack that might be happening. Another thing I'd recommend is literally doing some breathing, getting outside, getting away from the stressor. if possible, and taking a break from that as well. But definitely somatic work is very helpful. Even doing stretching and yoga poses can be helpful.
So we got in another question from Ren, and he's asking, what are some ways to ease yourself when opening up to people that you have a hard time trusting?
When you have a hard time trusting people, especially if you have a hard time with being open with these people, it's important first to determine, are these people safe to me? If they are not safe, you don't find them trustworthy, then I would say maybe you should reconsider whether or not you want to open up to these individuals, and finding others that you do feel safe opening up to, especially when it comes to trust. Building trust takes time, and trust is different for everyone. So, what I would say, it's important to go ahead and gauge a little bit. How do people respond to me when I tell them what I'm feeling, what I am thinking throughout the day? Do they judge me? Do they tell me that I am wrong? Do they belittle me or dismiss my feelings? If this is what's happening to you, to the people that you try to open up to, then that means that these are not safe people. Therefore, trust cannot be built or established because you don't feel safe with them. So finding people that do respond in kind, and they say they want to be supportive in whatever way that looks like to you. A healthy way of finding support could be, oh, I see that you're struggling. Would you like to spend some time together? Maybe let's go for a walk. Let's go, or let me just hear you out. I'm here to listen to you. And this is somebody that can keep things to themselves and not talk about you. But if the people that you're having difficulty with trusting or gaining trust or not feeling safe with, um, again, I'd say reconsider whether or not you consider them people you'd want to open up to in the first place.
Thank you so much for that reply and that explanatory answer, Mr. Adeche. So Ren has one question. She says, how do you deal with grief when you're mentally stressed out?
It's a huge balance. That's a very good question. So grief can very much be present throughout our lives in several instances. It can be changes, it could be being away from home, it could be engaging with feeling like we have all of these tasks, these mountains of tasks. So what I'd say is literally setting aside time to allow yourself to acknowledge what you are feeling, and talk whatever way this helps. There are different ways of this helping, especially with grief. If you want someone to listen to you, then I would recommend like schedule a time or call a friend, text a friend, hey, can you talk with me? I'm feeling a lot right now, and telling them about your grief. And you can preface it with, I do not need you to give me any advice on what I should do or how I should feel. I just want to be listened to. So a big part of it is prefacing any kind of conversation you want to have with someone, even if it's yourself or a professional, of saying like, I just need someone to listen to me right now about what I'm feeling, that I'm missing this person, and or this thing, this experience, my home, whatever it is, because grief takes many forms. So what I would also say is, if you do have grief coupled with a lot of busyness in your life, it's also looking at, hey, can you allow yourself time to take time away from the busyness of life, and give yourself some time to acknowledge and honor those emotions. Talk to the people that you feel that you can connect with, even writing some things out. Writing a letter for 15 minutes or so to the person that you miss and what you miss is also very helpful and effective when it comes to managing grief. Or even listening to voices of the person that you miss. There are many ways.
And we got a question from Julieta talking about, what is a quick daily habit that one can do to help ease their stress?
So quick daily habit, exercise for sure, is up there on the top of the totem pole for me, because moving my body really helps to alleviate the stress, the cortisol in the brain and in the body. So by even walking outside, getting sunlight, being exposed to nature, allowing yourself time to just breathe and experience the outside world, or moving your body can release endorphins. So this doesn't mean, again, going to a gym. It could be that you do it in your own home. You could be doing some stretches at home, something that gets your heart rate up and moving. And by doing this on a consistent basis, you can see that your stress management level can be alleviated. Because back in the hunter-gatherer experiences of humankind, they were moving all the time. They had to survive. Now we are very sedentary, a lot more so than ever before, because of all the technology and just livelihoods that we've become accustomed to, which I think should change in ways. So learning how to manage that and move your body more is very important, especially when it comes to feeling stressed. So if you have a lot of tasks to take care of, amp up the amount of endorphins in your mind by exercising. That way you can start your day or have some time in your day. It can be anytime. Some people like morning, midday, evening, whenever, to allow yourself time to exercise. But committing to that, no matter how small it is, can make more of a difference than not doing it at all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing your insights with tonight. And before we wrap up, could you share some final thought that we should leave off with? Something that we can walk off from this last event?
Yes. So I think this goes for everyone, not just college students, but just reminding yourself that you are absolutely worthy of the time that you take for yourself, allowing yourself time to feel and experience your emotions, knowing that the transition to college is not, it's going to be one of many challenges you may face in your life, but definitely I would emphasize that you should prioritize yourself, your life, because you are the experiencer in it. So allowing yourself time to take up space, allowing yourself time to reflect, to disengage, to do nothing, to relax, but also to get things done. They're all important. But allow yourself time to be in the world as well, because we do so much, especially when we're in college, but especially when we're working or in any other aspects of our lives. So just remember to have that as a balance for yourself. And this can be done through the mindfulness, stress management techniques. And please don't forget that help is always available. And there are many ways to get it. If you're ever feeling lost about like how to seek help, depending on financial circumstances or anything like that, feel free to contact me as well. And I can go ahead and help you with finding some resources for you as well.
Thank you so much, Juan, for sharing your time with us and your expertise in all this. We really appreciate you having a presentation ready for us. And to everyone watching, if you want to continue learning about tonight's topic, be sure to check out our resources at tasteofscience.org. And we hope you enjoyed tonight's talk and learned something new. And we're excited to see you at our next Taste of Science event. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Y'all too. Good night.